warriors from the lightless caverns of the world, and the frozen glaciers that make up its top. People from the expansive plains that never stop, or the islands of misty jungles, places of high, craggy rock, wherever there's isolation and ignorance. People are rolling D12 for hit points. That's right, bitches. We're talking about the only class badass enough to add its constitution bonus twice. We're talking about barbarians. That's right. I am your chieftain. You are my horde. I call you all here to witness my words of the savage. And we speak of the savage as they are known. You see, there are plenty of fighter classes out there. There's Duskblades and Swashbucklers and Hexblades and all these other fighter classes. But when they stand on the field of barbarians, they are all one thing. Corpses, and corpses are harvested with a two-handed axe, with a two-handed sword, with a two-handed club, with two hands. It doesn't matter. There's going to be pain, bruise, and agony, and a price to be paid when the barbarian gets his hands upon you, upon your scrawny little neck. Think you're going to come at that barbarian with some sneak attack action? Hell no. The tank backstab on that ass, throw in big lariat, knock your ass down, Russian Nightmare style, with boots and blood so you can't get up. The barbarian is a savage at his core, and that rage defines the class. They are like a whirlwind of violence unleashed upon your mind, unleashed upon your body, unleashed upon your soul. What you don't understand in civilization, where you read things like books, is the barbarian doesn't care. He is forged from the elements and strengthened by them. He is stronger, he is tougher, he is more resilient, he will survive. He may not create elegance in the form that is often known, but he is there in his savage splendor. Now there's a lot of ways that you can come about this class. You can make the old, noble, savage paradigm. Of course, the early roots of the class are even influenced by Conan, which in all reality doesn't have any barbarian levels, particularly as they advance that class through additions from Unearthed Arcana into the complete orange or maroon colored book in AD&D 2nd edition, which quite honestly was a huge letdown when you were sitting there playing a barbarian that took 4,000 experience points to hit level 2. That's right. That's when you know you're badass. When you're doubling that dex bonus. When you're doubling those hit points. When you're first level and that third level fighter still has less hit points than you. And you can still whoop his ass in a fight. That's right. You don't care about a bardic because you have a great axe. And you're going to decapitate someone with that with a quickness. As a standard action. As all the actions. There will be many decapitations. But that's just what NPCs, PCs, and anything else that can be attacked is there for. The barbarian is at times a very easy character to play. You can hand it to a new person, even to a young person, and say, let your rage guide you. Shoot through the world with anger and rage and hatred. And it's so primal, it's so easy to understand that anyone can grasp that. I have a chaotic alignment and an axe. And it can be just that simple. However, there's a great deal, a multitude of complexity which should not be forgotten when looking at the barbarian. That's right. Now, we're not talking about the powers of pain here, my friends. We're not talking about war paint from that variety and a Samoan head drop, headbutt from the top rope that misses by about this much. Talking about daylight. We're talking about a character that can have a great degree of complexity bolted upon him. Just like, you know, when you see that scene in Conan the Barbarian where an handwriting was provided to Conan, the poetry of Qatar, you know, it is awesome when you can see that sort of evolution. And certainly the Barbarian, particularly in a more modular version of Dungeons & Dragons, can be applied. And that can be very interesting to bring in the character slowly becomes more and more civilized? Or does he fight against it? Does he look at the ills of society? Does he point them out? Is he so pure that he could go beyond them, to transcend them, to look down on them, to condescend them? Or is he a marvel by what is out there, what more than his filthy, dirty, tribal existence? What grandeur the world and its full regalia has to provide for him? Well, there's so many different options if you think and if you understand the psychology of this primitive, of this, if I can quote Al Swearingen, dirt-worshipping heathen has in his mind what he can see, what he can the awe that can be inspired in him so far passes other characters that is very interesting. What can be done? There is, of course, a lot of stock aspects to a lot of the way people play barbarians. And in the earlier parts of the video, for those of you that aren't too swift, it was, of course, parody and satire, joking around. You could certainly do a lot more with a barbarian than grab a two-handed sword or an axe. Not that that isn't fun. Not that it isn't fun to cleave someone in half from the torso. Fuck taking their head off. 20 points of damage to your midsection. Enjoy that. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about level 1 action right there. The barbarian can come around in a lot of different ways. I've seen different takes and ideas and interpretations of the barbarian. Barbarians that aren't chaotic, more the neutral good or even neutral evil style. In fact, I don't know if I've ever seen a neutral barbarian. I've certainly seen them played in the other alignments, though, without the chaos. And there's a lot you can do there. The barbarian, really one of my favorite fighting classes. If I don't have a great deal of confidence in a game to have any real enjoyment, I'm going to make me a barbarian, because I'll guarantee you I'm going to have a little bit of fun right there, right off the bat. The barbarian is so electric. The combat can be so interesting. What do you take? I'm a barbarian. What are your weapons? I didn't take any. What is your armor? Didn't take any of that either. What do you do? I'm going to put these hands on you, swing these big soup bones upside your nugget, and it's going to be on. It's going to be good. Maybe grab a knife, too, because you got to skin something. Once you kill it, you need to skin it. The knife isn't to attack people. You have hands for that. Just like the beasts themselves, the gods equip us with what we need, and that kind of idea can certainly be played through the barbarian. Remember, take the terrain, the environment, the type, the isolation that you have, and infuse that to a great degree into your character. If you're from the deserts, if you're from a jungle, if you're from a great plains, if you're from a frozen north or frozen south, or a vast jungle or an island jungle or a big volcanic island, whatever sort of terrain it is, make sure you bring those aspects in. Does a barbarian, is he a hunter? Is he a fisher? Does he gather? How does he acquire an ability to sustain himself before the game starts? Often the class can really abut in some ways up against the ranger. The ranger itself, though, is different in that the ranger could be civilized, all depending. The ranger, of course, has a bit of a different origin story than the barbarian. However, they can be very similar and are at times put in the same book together, for they do overlap to a point of questionable to the fact of how many of these classes you really need, how many of these classes really are classes themselves and not just different rule sets. The rule set itself is pointless. It's simply the idea that it provokes, the model that it creates. And often the ranger and the barbarian intersect, particularly if you push one concept this way and the other concept this way. Look, I'm touching right now. They're pretty close to begin with. Not that you can't go in the other ways from them too and make them quite different. The Arcana Unearthed, is it? Or is it Unearthed Arcana? The 3.0 book has some variants for barbarians in it that are quite interesting as well. The fact that barbarians are the ones with the hit points, are the ones with damage reduction. It's like, the hell with you. What is wrong with you? What do you think? You can't come against me. It can really provide a lot of entertainment and interesting aspect there. I've really enjoyed barbarian. If I'm playing a barbarian, I'm going to be right honest with you. I don't like equipment. I'm like, maybe, I'm going to take something like some nails. I'm like, well, I got nails, so I'm going to drop those there and I'll slam you on the nail. I'll make a weapon. I'll rip a branch off a tree and hit you with it. I'll jump on top of a snake, a big giant snake, and start wrestling it, and put the sleeper hold on the snake and hold their mouth shut. You use the unorthodox tactics. Those are always so wonderful to me with a barbarian. It's like, well, all right, look, I might not be the optimal unarmed combatant. I'm not a monk, but my character's not butt either, so what's good now? The barbarian definitely gets an A rating from me as far as the class grade goes. love a barbarian, they can be very simple and simplistic. And you can get a 10-year-old turned on to a barbarian, and you can come at them from a degree of complexity and play them with all the sophistication that you'd want to desire in a deep, immersive style of game.